Hello, this is Jackie
and Dawn,
and we're doing another video today on what it was like going to school being dyslexic. We wanted to share our stories and our experiences of what it was like actually going to school being severely dyslexic, and I'd say
mild, no average dyslexic. But the fact is, we're from an older generation, without putting our age in there, but we found that nothing has changed since I was at school and Jackie was at school. It seems to be that if you've got learning difficulties, then we'll take you out of the class. If you've got behavioural difficulties, they don't look at your learning difficulties, they just expel you and then you don't go on. So we want to share really what it was like for us in different schools, and maybe in later videos we want to continue to help you understand yourselves and or your children. So I'd start with Jackie first.
Okay, well, as I say, me and Dawn have spoken before we started this video really about our own childhood, wasn't it, and what we actually went through. And I think, you know, as I was 2 or 3, and my mother says even then she knew that I was very different than my sister. So I think then there was sort of some problems where, again, I was a very, I could play very practical things, but when it came down to reading or writing, I seem to have had a problem from a very early age. Where my sister, 2 years younger, could pick up a book or pick up spelling, and so we realised then that something, I think, was sort of amiss even before I started sort of school. Great dancer, loved to dance, loved music even when I was a tot.
She can't dance.
So I think, you know, we can go right back at the beginning, and then, as I say, starting infants and juniors, so hard. You know, you'd have your 20 words of spelling, and I'd bring them home, and my sister would start sort of listening to me going over and over and over these words. And my sister could pick up again so fast, you know, she'd pick the words up and I'd still be struggling, and we'll go right through to the end of the week and I'd be sort of learning a few, I'd get some right, go into school, you know, get some of them right, some of them I forget, it just wouldn't stay. And the terrible thing is, by Monday, I'd literally forgot them all. They're all gone. I had some really great little friends who was around me at the time, and we would sit outside my mum's dad's house. We had chalk and we would learn words and we'd go over and over. Still, I just couldn't retain the information. So of course, you know, being in a remedial class, you were taken out, all my friends were in the same group, and I was constantly being, you know, taken out of the classroom. Now, I don't know, we must have been a very fashionable school then, because we were actually doing phonics.
I can't remember much of my schooling. Whether or not, you know, it was that bad I blocked it out. I know it wasn't really behaviour problems. My father and mother were very good parents, very strict, so it didn't even come into my head to misbehave. But I think I just went into the shadows. I was one of those children that I just kept well away from everything else, hid behind people, and let them get on with it, and then nobody would notice me. And I think that's what I've done in most of my life. I've hidden so nobody notices me. And that's been very difficult in many jobs that I've held. I mean, lastly, the prison service for 19 years, how you can hide in there was very difficult. But I made up with it by different ways, and if people who know me will understand those different ways. But I think Jackie's probably was more traumatic than mine was.
I think so. I think, as I say, with the junior school, what we went through, we were learning French, but again, it was in a very parrot fashion way of learning French. So when we moved from Upminster to Benfleet in Essex, the school that I then went to at 11 had no idea what I'd been learning. so I was behind anyway.
Yeah.
But now on top of this, I was even more behind. So, you know, where I went into the top French class at the beginning of the first year, by the second year, I was literally put down to the bottom again.
It must have been quite traumatic.
Yeah. And then, as I say, I started sort of seeing a psychiatrist because, again, I wanted to run away. I didn't want to be at school. I was screaming and shouting. It was really so frustrating because you begged people to understand why you couldn't learn. You couldn't learn the same way as everybody else. Why couldn't you go into a classroom and, you know, we'd do a test, out of 20 I'd get 4.
So nobody could give you the answer other than you're stupid or you're thick or you're just a naughty child, you don't want to learn. And you're screaming, and I still think it happens a lot now.
Yeah, I do.
Please, you know, I want to learn. This is interesting, but as soon as I leave the classroom, it's gone.
It's gone. Couldn't retain it. Couldn't remember it. My friends were very good at you know, while I was at Cranham, and I had, you know, 4 or 5 really good friends. But then again, when I moved to Benfleet, literally didn't want to admit. So the children from my class, I never wanted to hang out with them. I didn't want anybody to know, because then they knew I couldn't read and write. So the older children I went with, they didn't know that I couldn't read and write. And because I could talk, but because I could, you know, hold a conversation, knew my music, loved what I used to do, nobody really bothered. But it was the kids of my own class, you know, that's where I had, as I say, the name calling, the frustration of every day going into school. So for me, you know, when I think I started school at 5 and ended at 15, it really, you know,
It's a horrible time, and like myself, I didn't make friends. I knew people, but I wanted to hide behind everything. And I was speaking to Jackie. We just come back from Singapore, and I wanted to go my first day in senior school in this little mini skirt, because that's what everybody was wearing then. No, she sent me in this awful blue pink pinafore that kind of near enough went to my ankles. I mean, how embarrassing is that? You know, so it really went downhill from then. I mean, how, you know, I just couldn't believe, and really I just didn't really make friends from then on, because I was sent to the optician because I couldn't see. The optician said I was probably lying because there was nothing wrong with my eyes. I was moved to the front of the class, but it wasn't, as I now know. It wasn't because I was pretending.
No,
I could see it didn't mean anything, and we all, you know, the difficult years is dyslexia is, learning when you're dyslexic is different. Jackie would learn now different to what I do. At the moment, we're still struggling to find how I'm to learn.